The soft hum of the shuttle's engines grew quieter as it touched down gently on the outskirts of Geneva. Inside, a group of alien students from across the Galactic Union stared out the windows with wide eyes, their diverse forms silhouetted against the bright lights of the landing pad. Xanthor, their Varelian guide, stood at the front, his four eyes gleaming with excitement. "As we disembark, remember, gravity here is slightly stronger than many of you are used to," Xanthor announced, his voice echoing slightly in the shuttle's cabin. "Take it slow and steady." A murmur of acknowledgement passed through the students as they gathered their belongings. Among them was Grix, a Martian with a keen interest in Earth's geological phenomena. He turned to his neighbor, a tall, slender Plutonian named Threx. "Ever been to a Class X planet before?" Grix asked, adjusting the straps of his backpack. "First time," Threx replied, his voice a low whistle. "Heard stories, though. Earth's ecosystems are nothing like our frozen wastes back home." As the group made their way down the shuttle ramp, Dr. Jacob Hartman, their human liaison, greeted them warmly. "Welcome to Earth, everyone. I'm Jacob, and I'll be assisting Xanthor during your stay here. We've got a lot planned for you." Xanthor stepped aside as Jacob took over, leading them toward a waiting hoverbus. "Our first stop will be the Global Environmental Learning Center, where you'll be staying and attending your initial seminars." The hoverbus whisked them through the city, and the students pressed against the windows, marveling at the bustling human architecture and the verdant parks interspersed between buildings. "So, what's the deal with Earth being called a Deathworld?" asked Lear, a curious Andromedan, as he sat next to Jacob. Jacob chuckled. "It's not as ominous as it sounds, but Earth does host an extraordinary range of environments, each with its own set of challenges. From scorching deserts to freezing tundras, not to mention the predators." "Predators?" Lear's voice held a mix of fear and fascination. "Yes, creatures that might see you as a potential meal. But don't worry, we've planned your field trips to keep you safe and sound." Arriving at the center, the group was ushered into a large conference room where refreshments were served. Xanthor and Jacob stood at the front, ready to begin the orientation. "As we explore Earth, you will not only learn about its natural wonders, but also its conservation efforts," Xanthor explained, switching to a series of slides showing various landscapes of Earth. Grix raised a hand. "How do humans manage to survive in such varied conditions?" "It's all about adaptation and understanding our environment," Jacob responded, launching into a detailed explanation of human technologies and strategies for survival in extreme conditions. From building insulated dwellings in cold regions to developing efficient water usage techniques in deserts, humans have found numerous ways to thrive. The room buzzed with animated conversation as the students discussed what they hoped to see and learn. Xanthor and Jacob exchanged a look of satisfaction, pleased with the enthusiasm. As the meeting concluded, Jacob announced, "Tomorrow, we start with a guided tour of the city and its surrounding natural reserves. Get a good rest tonight. You'll need it." The students dispersed to their rooms, their minds alive with anticipation. Earth was already proving to be every bit as fascinating as they had heard, and with Xanthor and Jacob as their guides, they felt ready to dive into the wonders of this so-called Deathworld. The next morning, under a crisp blue sky, the group assembled early outside the Global Environmental Learning Center. Xanthor, carrying a digital map and several environmental sensors, was already preparing for the day's journey. Beside him, Dr. Jacob Hartman checked the day's itinerary on his tablet, ensuring everything was set for their first urban and natural exploration. "Good morning, everyone," Jacob greeted the students with a wide smile. "Today we're going to see some of Geneva's green initiatives and how the city integrates nature with urban development. Later, we'll head to a nearby nature reserve to start our hands-on ecological studies." The students, now somewhat accustomed to Earth's gravity, followed Jacob and Xanthor to the hoverbus that awaited them. The air was filled with the quiet hum of conversation as the group speculated about the day ahead. As the hoverbus moved through the city, Grix and Threx were deep in discussion with Lear about the architectural styles that blended seamlessly with parks and rooftop gardens. "Notice how the buildings are designed with green roofs and vertical gardens," Jacob pointed out as they passed a particularly lush structure. "These aren't just for aesthetics. They help reduce the urban heat island effect and support local biodiversity." Xanthor added, "It's fascinating to see how humans have adapted their cities to be part of the ecosystem, not apart from it. This balance is crucial for a death world like Earth, where environmental extremes can be mitigated by intelligent design." The hoverbus soon left the urban landscape behind, transitioning into the verdant outskirts where the reserve was located. The change in scenery brought an excited buzz from the students as they prepared for their first real taste of Earth's wild environments. Upon arriving at the reserve, the group disembarked and gathered around Xanthor, who handed out data pads loaded with information and interactive maps of the area. Today's task is to observe and record the different species you encounter, both flora and fauna. Pay attention to how they interact with their environment. As they ventured into the reserve, Dr. Hartman led a subgroup along a marked trail. This area is known for its diverse bird species. If you're lucky, you might spot the elusive European robin, known for its beautiful singing. Meanwhile, Xanthor guided another group towards a small lake. Aquatic ecosystems are perfect examples of complex food webs. Let's take some water samples and check for microorganisms. You'll be surprised at the variety of life even a small body of water can support. Lear, who had joined Xanthor's group, dipped a sample collector into the lake, carefully sealing the container. It's amazing to think such tiny creatures are crucial for the health of the entire ecosystem, he mused, examining the sample through a portable microscope. Yes, exactly, Xanthor agreed. Each species, no matter how small, plays a significant role in sustaining the environment. It's the interconnectedness of these roles that stabilizes the ecosystems. After several hours of exploration and data collection, the students reconvened for a picnic lunch by the lake, sharing their findings and experiences. Jacob and Xanthor facilitated a discussion about the importance of conservation and how the reserve's management practices helped preserve the natural habitats. Understanding and managing Earth's biodiversity is key to our survival on this planet, Jacob explained as they ate. Every measure we take, no matter how small, contributes to a larger effort to maintain the health of our planet. The day ended with the students feeling a deeper connection to Earth's environmental dynamics. They had not only witnessed the beauty of its ecosystems, but also grasped the challenges of living on a Deathworld and the human efforts to sustain it. As they headed back to Geneva, the discussions continued, with everyone eager to learn more in the days to come. The anticipation was palpable as the hoverbus ascended into the sky, bound for the Amazon rainforest. The alien students had read about this legendary ecosystem, but seeing it firsthand promised an entirely new level of understanding. Xanthor and Dr. Jacob Hartman stood at the front, ready to lead the group through one of Earth's most biodiverse regions. "Welcome to the Amazon rainforest," Jacob announced as the hoverbus descended into a clearing surrounded by dense foliage. This is one of the most complex ecosystems on Earth. It covers over 5.5 million square kilometers and is home to an astonishing variety of species. The students disembarked, their senses overwhelmed by the sheer abundance of life around them. The air was thick with humidity and the sounds of countless creatures. Vibrant plants towered above, creating a canopy that filtered the sunlight into a soft green glow. This environment is a prime example of Earth's biodiversity, Xanthor explained. You'll encounter species that exhibit incredible adaptations to survive here. Remember to document your observations carefully. Grix, Threx, and Lear teamed up, eager to explore. Grix, with his geological interest, immediately focused on the soil and root structures, noting how the tree's shallow roots spread wide to gather nutrients in the nutrient-poor soil. Threx, fascinated by the fauna, scanned the treetops for signs of movement. "Look at that," Threx pointed excitedly to a bright red and blue macaw perched high in the canopy. "Its colors are so vivid." Jacob smiled. The macaw's colors help it blend into the bright, dappled sunlight of the canopy. It's also a key species in seed dispersal, which is crucial for the forest's regeneration. Meanwhile, Xanthor led another group deeper into the forest, stopping frequently to point out interesting plants and insects. "This plant here," Xanthor said, gesturing to a vine with large, waxy leaves, "is the strangler fig. It begins its life high in the trees and slowly wraps around its host, eventually taking over." Lear marveled at the intricate interplay of life. It's a constant struggle for survival and dominance, yet there's a balance to it all. "Indeed," Xanthor agreed. "Every organism has its role. The interdependence of these roles is what maintains the ecosystem's stability." As the day progressed, the group came across a small stream. Jacob knelt down and dipped a sensor into the water, demonstrating how to measure its pH and temperature. Water quality is a vital indicator of an ecosystem's health. Streams like this one are lifelines for countless species. The students took turns using the equipment, carefully recording their data. Threx spotted a family of capybaras downstream, watching as the large rodents waded through the water. They seemed so calm, he observed. They're quite adaptable, Jacob noted. Capybaras are excellent swimmers and use the water as a refuge from predators. Their presence indicates a healthy aquatic environment. After several hours of exploration, the group reconvened at their base camp for lunch. As they ate, they shared their discoveries and discussed the significance of each. Xanthor and Jacob facilitated the conversation, guiding the students to connect their observations to broader ecological concepts. The Amazon is not just a collection of plants and animals, Xanthor explained. It's a living, breathing system. Each component, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, is integral to its function. Grix, who had been examining the layers of the forest floor, added, "And it's all so tightly connected. A change in one part of the system could ripple through the entire forest." That's why conservation is so important, Jacob emphasized. Human activities like deforestation and climate change threaten this delicate balance. Understanding these ecosystems helps us protect them. As the sun began to set, the group prepared to head back. The students were tired but exhilarated, their minds buzzing with the day's lessons. The journey back to Geneva was filled with animated discussions about their experiences and what they had learned. This was just the beginning, Xanthor said as they arrived back at the Global Environmental Learning Center. Tomorrow, we'll explore a completely different environment. Each ecosystem on Earth has its own story to tell, and we are here to learn from them all. The students dispersed to their quarters, their anticipation renewed. The Amazon had opened their eyes to the incredible diversity and complexity of life on Earth, and they were eager to see what other secrets this Deathworld had to reveal. The next adventure began early the following morning as the students boarded a shuttle destined for the vast expanses of the Sahara Desert. The contrast between the lush Amazon rainforest they had just left and the stark, arid landscape they were approaching was striking. Xanthor prepared the group for the drastic shift in environments. As we enter the Sahara, Xanthor explained, you'll notice a complete transformation in climate and ecosystem. The adaptations of life here are profoundly different from those in the rainforest. Dr. Jacob Hartman added, the Sahara is one of Earth's oldest deserts, and its extreme conditions force the life here to find innovative ways to survive. You'll see how scarcity of water has led to remarkable evolutionary strategies. Upon landing, the group donned protective gear against the scorching sun and sand-laden winds. The vast dunes rolled out before them, seemingly endless, with the sun casting sharp shadows across the fine sand. This, Jacob gestured broadly, is what Earthlings call a desert. But it's not just any desert. It's one of the harshest environments on our planet. Grix, looking around, commented, the simplicity of the landscape is deceptive. It seems like nothing could survive here. That's a common misconception, Xanthor replied. Survival strategies here are as complex as anywhere else. For instance, some plants have deep root systems to tap into underground water, while others, like the cactus, store water in their thick, fleshy tissues. As they walked, Threx noted the sparse vegetation and the occasional animal tracks in the sand. These tracks, what made them? He asked, pointing down. Jacob crouched to inspect them. These are likely from a fennec fox, a small nocturnal animal with large ears that help it dissipate heat. The group reached a shaded station where Xanthor set up an impromptu classroom under a large canvas. Here, he initiated a session on desert ecology using interactive holograms to show biological and geological processes. Notice how energy and water cycles here are minimal but extremely efficient, Xanthor illustrated on the hologram. Every drop of water and every bit of shade is used to its fullest. Lear, intrigued by the survival tactics, asked, how do the animals manage to find enough food? Many are nocturnal, avoiding the heat of the day, Jacob explained. They tend to feed on plants or other animals and can go for long periods without water. Some, like the camel, can drink large amounts of water at once when it's available, then store it for dry periods. As the sun began its descent, the temperature dropped noticeably. The group gathered around a device Jacob had set up to measure the temperature fluctuation from day to night. This rapid cooling is another challenge for life here, Jacob noted. The temperature can swing dramatically, which means adaptations are not just for heat, but also for cold. The day concluded with a group discussion back at the campsite, where they reflected on the resilience of desert species. Xanthor encouraged the students to think about how these adaptations could be applied to life on other planets or in other harsh environments. The lessons you learn here, Xanthor said, are not just about Earth. They're about life's potential to adapt to any condition, anywhere in the universe. That night, under the clear desert sky, The students lay outside their tents, observing the stars. The serene beauty of the Sahara at night was a stark contrast to the hostile conditions of the day. It was a perfect end to a day of learning about one of the most extreme environments on Earth. As they drifted to sleep, their dreams mingled with thoughts of the next day's journey to yet another of Earth's unique ecosystems, each student contemplating the vast diversity and adaptability of life. The Sahara had shown them that even in the most inhospitable conditions, life finds a way. The alien students gathered their gear, heavy coats, and thermal sensors, buzzing with excitement about their next destination, the Arctic Circle. Xanthor briefed them on the shuttle, his breath visible in the chilly air already seeping into the cabin. "Today we visit one of Earth's coldest environments," Xanthor explained. "The Arctic is a stark contrast to the Sahara, showcasing how life adapts to extreme cold rather than heat." Dr. Jacob Hartman chimed in as the shuttle soared northward. "Here, you'll see how organisms not only survive but thrive in below-freezing temperatures thanks to specialized adaptations." As the shuttle landed on a snowy tundra, the vast white landscape stretched endlessly around them. The group disembarked into the crisp Arctic air, their breath forming clouds of vapor. "This cold," Jacob began as he led the group toward a nearby research station, "is persistent and penetrating. The animals and plants here have evolved in fascinating ways to maintain their vital processes in such conditions." Grix, pulling his coat tighter around him, asked, "How can anything survive in this freezing environment?" "Great question," Xanthor replied, guiding them to a cluster of low-growing shrubs. "See these? They're willow shrubs, adapted to grow close to the ground, avoiding the chilling wind above. Their survival strategy includes staying out of the wind's full force and maintaining a microclimate among the roots." As they walked, Threx spotted a group of animals with thick white fur moving in the distance. "What are those?" he pointed. "Those are Arctic foxes," Jacob explained. "Their white fur camouflages them against the snow, protecting them from predators and helping them sneak up on their prey. Their fur is also incredibly insulating." The group reached the research station, where a scientist greeted them and led them inside. Here, they were shown instruments and techniques used to study the Arctic climate and its wildlife. "Studying these extreme environments helps us understand global climate patterns and their effects," the scientist explained. "The Arctic is particularly important because changes here can have a cascading effect globally." Lear, always curious about technological applications, inquired, "How do you keep your equipment working in such cold conditions?" "We use specially designed devices that can operate at extremely low temperatures without freezing," the scientist replied, showing them a thermal imaging camera used to study wildlife at night. The day continued with a visit to a frozen lake where they drilled through the ice to collect water samples. Many microorganisms live in these waters year-round, adapted to the cold and dark under the ice, Xanthor pointed out as they examined the icy water. As evening approached, the sky turned a pale lavender, and the group gathered outside the station. Jacob discussed the phenomenon of the northern lights, which soon began to dance across the sky in waves of green and violet. "This natural light show," Jacob said, watching their awed faces, "is caused by Earth's magnetic field interacting with charged particles from the sun. It's one of the many unique natural features of polar regions." The students recorded the lights, captivated by the display. The experience was not just a lesson in geography, but a poignant reminder of Earth's beauty and mystery. Back inside the warm station, Xanthor concluded the day's lessons. "Today showed us Earth's resilience. Life here has adapted in extraordinary ways to embrace the cold, just as it embraces heat, moisture, and dryness elsewhere." The journey back to the warmth of Geneva was quiet, as the students reflected on their Arctic experience. They had witnessed Earth's extremes, from the hottest deserts to the coldest ice fields, and were beginning to understand the full spectrum of what made this planet a renowned and respected Deathworld. After experiencing the frigid Arctic, the students' next venture led them to the stark and sun-baked expanse of the Sahara Desert. The transition from one extreme environment to another was a profound lesson in adaptability and survival, themes that Xanthor and Dr. Jacob Hartman emphasized as they prepared the group for the day's exploration. "As we explore the Sahara," Xanthor announced as they descended from the shuttle into the blazing heat, "pay attention to the adaptations of both the flora and fauna, which allow them to thrive in such an arid environment." Jacob distributed sun hats and long-sleeved robes to the students, advising, "These will help protect you from the sun." Hydration is crucial here, so please make sure to drink water at regular intervals. The landscape before them was a sea of endless dunes, the sand shifting subtly with the wind. The stark beauty of the desert was mesmerizing, but also a vivid reminder of its harshness. The group set out on foot, following a trail that led to a series of rocky outcrops. Grix, carrying a portable soil moisture analyzer, knelt to examine the sand. It's incredible how dry this soil is. Yet some plants manage to survive, he noted, pointing to a cluster of cactus-like plants with thick, fleshy leaves. These are succulents, Xanthor explained, joining Grix. They store water in their leaves and stems, which allows them to survive long periods without rainfall. Their roots spread wide rather than deep, to collect as much moisture as possible from the surface. As they ventured further, Threx used a thermal imaging camera to observe how the creatures of the desert avoided the midday heat. Many animals here are nocturnal, venturing out only during the cooler night hours, he explained to Lear, who was scanning the horizon with binoculars. Look over there, Lear exclaimed, spotting a group of camels in the distance. Those must be the desert ships I've read about. Yes, camels, Jacob confirmed with a smile. They can drink up to 40 gallons of water in one go and can last weeks without water by using the fat stored in their humps as both a food and water source. The group reached a nomadic settlement where they were greeted by local guides who shared their knowledge of living in the desert. The students were shown traditional techniques for finding water, such as digging shallow wells and collecting morning dew with cloths. This survival knowledge has been passed down through generations, one guide explained. Understanding the desert's rhythm and respecting its conditions are key to living here. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the sand, the group gathered around a small fire prepared by the guides. They discussed the day's findings, linking the survival strategies observed in the Sahara to those seen in other extreme environments. Whether it's conserving water like the succulents or avoiding heat like the nocturnal animals, life finds a way to adapt, Xanthor reflected. These strategies are lessons in efficiency and resourcefulness. Jacob nodded, adding, and these lessons aren't just academic. They have practical applications in engineering, urban planning, and even space exploration. Adapting to and managing resources wisely is crucial for sustainability. Under the clear, star-filled sky, the students laid out on blankets, discussing how the adaptability of desert life could inspire technologies and strategies back on their home planets. The vast, open night sky of the Sahara, dotted with countless stars, was a fitting backdrop for their reflections on survival and innovation. As they returned to their shuttle, the cool night air was a relief after the heat of the day. The Sahara had offered them a deep understanding of resilience and adaptation, themes that resonated with the students as they prepared for their next learning adventure. The diverse and extreme conditions of Earth continued to unfold before them, each environment teaching its unique survival lessons. After exploring some of Earth's most extreme environments, the group returned to the Global Environmental Learning Center to delve into a complex and critical topic: the impact of humans on Earth. Xanthor and Dr. Jacob Hartman prepared a series of lectures and interactive sessions to help the students understand the interplay between human development and environmental conservation. As the students settled into the conference room, Xanthor began, "Today, we focus on a crucial aspect of Earth's ecosystems, the influence of its dominant species, humans. We'll explore both the negative impacts and the extraordinary efforts to mitigate them." Jacob projected images of industrialization, deforestation, and urban sprawl. "Humans have transformed Earth's landscape profoundly," he explained. "While these changes have facilitated societal advancement and technological progress, they've also led to significant environmental challenges." Grix raised a hand, still puzzled from the previous day's lessons on natural adaptability. How do humans manage these impacts? With such drastic changes, how is balance maintained? "That's a great question," Jacob replied. He switched the slides to showcase various global conservation efforts, protected areas, wildlife conservation programs, and international agreements like the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. "Conservation is key," Jacob continued. "Many humans are dedicated to reversing damage and protecting what remains of the natural world. This involves complex policy-making, scientific research, and community engagement." Xanthor then introduced the concept of sustainable development. This approach aims to meet human needs while ensuring that the environment is preserved for future generations. It's about finding a balance. The group was then taken to a nearby sustainable farming operation. Here, they saw firsthand how innovative practices could reduce water use, enhance soil health, and increase biodiversity. The farm manager explained how they used crop rotation, organic methods, and integrated pest management to achieve sustainability. This system mimics natural processes and reduces the need for chemical inputs, the manager explained. It's a practical example of how humans are learning to work with, rather than against, nature. Threx, who was particularly interested in technology's role in environmental management, asked, "Are there technological solutions being developed to address these environmental issues?" "Absolutely," Jacob responded, leading the group back to the center where they attended a workshop on green technologies. They learned about renewable energy sources like solar and wind power, advancements in electric vehicle technology, and smart grids that help manage energy consumption more efficiently. These technologies are crucial in reducing the ecological footprint of human activities, Jacob added. They represent hope for a cleaner, more sustainable future. The day concluded with a roundtable discussion where students shared how the concepts learned could be applied to their own planets. Lear, inspired by the sustainable practices, noted, "Adopting such strategies could greatly benefit my homeworld, which struggles with managing its natural resources." Xanthor summarized, "Today, we've seen the full spectrum of human impact, from the challenges to the solutions. It's a powerful reminder of the responsibility that comes with intelligence and technological capability." The session left the students reflective but motivated. They recognized that while Earth had unique challenges as a death world, the lessons in environmental stewardship were universal. As they prepared for their final day, they were eager to carry these insights back to their own worlds, understanding more deeply the intricate balance required to sustain life in the universe. As the educational program drew to a close, the alien students and their guides gathered one last time at the Global Environmental Learning Center. The room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and melancholy as the group prepared to say their goodbyes and reflect on their transformative journey on Earth. Xanthor stood at the front of the room, his expression thoughtful. "Today we conclude not just a journey through Earth's diverse ecosystems, but also a journey of understanding. You've seen the resilience of life in extreme conditions and the impact of human activity on this planet. I hope these lessons resonate with you as you return to your own worlds." Dr. Jacob Hartman joined him, offering a warm smile to the group. "It's been an incredible privilege to share Earth with you all. We've learned from each other, and I believe we're all leaving this experience richer in knowledge and perspective." One by one, the students shared their projects and reflections. Grix presented a detailed analysis of soil samples collected from different ecosystems, explaining the potential applications of Earth's soil management techniques on Mars. Threx discussed his observations on Earth's wildlife, particularly the survival strategies of desert and Arctic animals, drawing parallels to the fauna on his icy home planet of Pluto. Lear, always intrigued by technology, showcased a proposal for an interplanetary exchange program focused on conservation technologies. "I've been inspired by the renewable energy solutions here," Lear explained. "I believe a collaborative approach could accelerate our efforts to develop sustainable living practices galaxy-wide." As the presentations concluded, Xanthor offered some final words. "Your projects and insights demonstrate the power of shared knowledge. Earth is but one of countless worlds in the universe, each with its own challenges and wonders. The understanding we build here about resilience, adaptability, and stewardship is a foundation upon which we can all grow." The room filled with applause, not just for the presentations, but for the journey they had shared. The students then collected their certificates of completion, each inscribed with their name and a message of congratulations from both Xanthor and Jacob. As they moved outside to the shuttle that would take them to the spaceport, the atmosphere was festive yet reflective. The students exchanged contact information, promising to keep in touch and share further discoveries and advancements from their respective worlds. Jacob watched them board the shuttle, feeling a mix of pride and hope. "Safe travels, everyone. Remember, Earth is always here, continuing its dance of life. You're welcome back anytime to learn more or just to visit." The shuttle doors closed, and as it lifted off, the students pressed against the windows, waving until the building disappeared from view. They were leaving Earth, but they carried with them memories and lessons that would influence their futures, and perhaps the future of the galaxy. Back inside the now quiet conference room, Xanthor turned to Jacob. "What do you think, Jacob? Will they remember Earth as fondly as we hope?" Jacob smiled, looking out the window where the shuttle had vanished into the blue sky. "I think they will, Xanthor. We've given them a glimpse of what makes Earth both unique and challenging. That's something that sticks with you, no matter how far you travel. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape, the program at the Global Environmental Learning Center came to an end. But the impact of the experience, like the ripples from a stone thrown into a pond, would continue to spread far and wide.